What up y'all, it's T-Tur, and today we're going to be talking about if Blastoise got an X Mega Evolution in Legends EA. This is going off our anomaly theory. So this is a theory that when Pokemon get X Mega Evolutions, Charizard and Mewtwo, that they are anomalies. And so you got the Black Charizard, you got a physically offensive Mewtwo. And now to talk about if Blastoise went down the path of an anomalous Mega Evolution. So first let's talk about Mega Blastoise. Why? That's what it hypothetically would be recategorized to. I know this all sounds crazy at first, but fam, this game's not coming out for 10 years. We gotta talk about something. Don't freaking look at me. I'm trying to make y'all's hype season. Honestly, I got like a billion videos I want to make for Legends EA, so listen, this is just what I want to talk about now. Mega Blastoise, why? What they did with this one is, well, look at them. You got Blastoise with the two cannons at the top. It merges into one giant cannon. How terrifying is that? And then it also gets two mini cannons, so you could almost say the two cannons on its back actually go to its arms, which is so badass. And then it actually gets a new cannon. Man, it's like a telescope. But yeah, the point of this Mega Evolution is to build on Blastoise being this big blasting Pokemon, and by achieving its new form like this, it now has so much more blasting power. It gets the ability Mega Launcher, which it can blast so hard that it pretty much gets stab on any blasting moves like Aura Sphere and Dark Pulse and Origin Pulse for some reason. Actually, to put a side note on this, you wonder, why does Origin Pulse work for it? Is it just because it's coded in the game to detect any moves that have pulse in it? But I think it might be something like these pulse moves in Japanese are named something Hado. It's like this spiritual energy attack. Just think of it as like a little Kamehameha, right? That's a Hado. So with moves like Dark Pulse, it's really just Dark Hado. So really what Mega Launcher would seem to be is this Hado cannon. Not to be confused with Hadoken, but that's the same concept, right? Look at this man using Hadoken. That's what Mega Launcher is. So I suppose that makes Blastoise this ultimate cannon Hado monster. You know, rather than using elegantly like some Japanese goddess, Blastoise got this giant cannon that he blasts all these moves. But yeah, I just gave you that rundown so you properly get what Mega Blastoise Y would be about. It's Pokedex entry. There's only one for it through Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee that says the cannon on its back is as powerful as a tank gun. Its tough legs and back enable it to withstand the recoil from firing the cannon. Now this is the Let's Go entry, so they're not talking about the spooky stuff that they did in like the Ultra Sun and Moon entries. So we don't see the dark side to this Blastoise Mega Evolution here. But you can see all it ultimately is this direct path forward for Blastoise where nothing is really changed. All it has is gotten stronger in the same path. Now to talk about Mega Blastoise X. What is an anomaly we can take Blastoise down and transform it? The first thing that would come to mind to talk about typings is Water Steel. That's like the main thing you would think, right? It's this freaking Franklin with this giant sturdy shell on its back. Surely you can spin that in a way where it's a very defensive Pokemon. If you look at Blastoise's stats, its defense has always been high. And even in its latest Sugimori art, right? They show it with its back turned to you, kind of like annoying Tyranitar, but it's to show you it's a defensive Pokemon. That's the impression I get from it, at least. So Water Steel would work really well. And so you could have this crazy Mega Evolution, not as insane as Mega Slowbro, but where the shell consumes more of it and is a very hard shell. And maybe you see the way it uses Hydro Pump, it spins around. That could be the way it functions, and you can already see that makes a fun indirect path. And you know, if I put all the typings here, there are some other fun ones that could work. We don't really want like Dark, because Water Dark has been used a lot. You could take it down a fantastical route that we can't predict and make it like Water Ice, where overwhelming power freezes over its body and now it has like this ice shell. You really can't tell what kind of anomaly they could take it down. Or Water Electric, where they say the friction in its body makes all this static electricity that it's wielding. Now it's a Water Electric type, and very effectively. But honestly, the best one that speaks to me is Water Steel. It's a very fun typing, and try to name 2 Water Steel Pokemon. I'll give you one, Empoleon. I'll give you $1,000 if you name another. There isn't another. And you know what Game Freak would want to do is give typings that don't exist plethorously. So Water Steel would make a real cool counterpart to Charizard being Fire Dragon as well. And to go off our initial ideas for our Venusaur, that was Venusaur as Grass Fairy, Charizard as Fire Dragon, and now Blastoise as Water Steel. It does make a cool alternate path like that. So yeah, building off the same pose as we have for Blastoise here, you could add a bunch of spikes on its back. And this would be sad to say, but it might even be something along the lines of Blastoise not using its cannons much in this form. The same way Charizard discards its flying typing, Blastoise here might even discard its cannons and just be this tanky, slow steel Pokemon. I would say that's less likely, but not impossible, because you may say its name is Blastoise. How are you gonna take the blast out of it? But its name doesn't have a reference to being a blast Pokemon in Japanese. Its name is literally like Max Turtle, Maximum Turtle. That's what Blastoise is in Japanese. Honestly, I'd rather just give him the cannons. You could do a spin on the cannons where the dude fires the cannons off his body. So like his back has a bunch of spikes on it, and the cannons itself have this little ammo in them that are spike shots. And so this would get into its ability. It would get some kind of ability where when water moves are used or when blast moves are used, the opponent takes some kind of secondary effect from this little steel shell that it's shooting out. Something like it takes additional damage, or it could be something like it sets up spikes on the opponent's field, one layer of 3 spikes. But that's kind of boring, bro. We don't want these metagame abilities. And yeah, I worded this to make it a counterpart of the other Blastoise, right? So this one has a Mega Launcher making use of blast moves. This one also having an ability that makes use of blast moves, the Hado moves. And so it could be something like when you use blast moves, the opponent can't switch out anymore. Something like you shot them and now they can't run away. But yeah, you can go with simpler ideas like the enemy just taking like another 10% damage from the spike, or like their attack going down because they're injured. But 10% does go a long way, especially if we bump that up to like 20%. 1, it would break focus sashes, but 2, a lot of the times when you use an attack, that last 20% buff is gonna take it over the halfway point, so you can just kill it in another hit. I'm talking about using it in the main game against enemies, especially if they got like a Volo fight planned for this game. You're gonna need these proper Pokemon. You know what? I like what we built there. So this one, Mega Launchers, makes its attack stronger. This one's version of its Mega Launcher is more cheap and hits you with something whenever it uses blast moves. Just to have fun, the most confusing ability I can think of for this Blastoise X would be something like when blast moves are used, that they gain the steel typing, which pretty much makes a bunch of flying presses, dual typed moves. So pretty much this would mean Aura Sphere is now fighting steel, Dark Pulse is now Dark Steel, and Water Pulse is now Water Steel. But that's really the only 3. Those are the only 3 moves this works for anyway. So it's still pretty organized. This is Kalos after all. This is the game that introduced the dual typing and was never revisited. This would be the most fun time they could revisit that for a Blastoise X here. So now, you know what? Let's go and see what fan art people have come up with for an alternate Blastoise. Alright, I found one that's Water Steel, and this one is very interesting. So as you can see, Blastoise has a whole different look to it, where the man is very smooth now. He looks a lot like an Aggron. The same cannons on the base Blastoise are retained, which makes it interesting, but it's completely overtaken by the steel. And there is a nice Mega Evolution touch here where these crystals appear around its body. Mega Evolution just does weird things like that. The weirdest part about this, which I like a lot, is how its head has been distorted and become so smooth. This is the kind of thing that would happen. He looked like in baseball, the catcher. So this is a much more defensive take for Mega Blastoise X rather than offensively using that steel power. And you can see by it finally going on all 4s, which Blastoise barely does, that it's far too heavy now. So this fits the tanky vibe well. Let me know y'all's thoughts in the comments. How would you make a Mega Blastoise X? What ability would you give yours? And what ability would you give our idea here with the little spike pellets inside its cannons that it fires every time it uses them? We're done with the Kanto starter, so let's see what we talk about next. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.